Hello. Today, we're going to take a look at the unit circle, what it is, and how you use it in solving trigonometric problems. Let's go. To create a unit circle, it's important to first understand two special triangles, the 45-45-90 triangle and the 30-60-90 triangle. If you've never seen these before, go check out this video. It'll explain them more slowly. But assuming that you've seen these before, I'm going to label each of these with a hypotenuse of 1. Okay, so these ratios are what make up our unit circle. And the reason it's called a unit circle is because our hypotenuse all the way around is going to be 1, a single unit. So here's our XY axis. And if we draw a circle of radius 1, so all of these are 1, and then we divide our quadrants into a 30-degree angle, a 45-degree angle, and a 60-degree angle, then if we take our point of intersection of the circle and drop a perpendicular line back down to the x-axis, we now have three triangles, a 30-60-90, a 45-45-90, and a 60-30-90. So we can label based on these because our hypotenuse for each one of them is 1. So in our 30-60-90 triangle, right, that point right there, well, the side opposite the 30 in this case, that's our up. And the side opposite the 60, that's our over. So this is over root 3 over 2, up 1/2. For our 45-45-90, we're over root 2 over 2 and up root 2 over 2. For our 60-30-90, we're over 1/2, up root 3 over 2. Now, these same ratios will repeat in all four quadrants, but in our second quadrant here, our y's will still be positive. Our x's, our overs, will now be negative, because that right there is 1, 0, and that right there is -1, 0. So if I take this quadrant again and divide it into a 30-degree angle, a 45-degree angle, and a 60-degree angle. Wait, what? I hear you cry. Okay, I'm talking about the reference angles, the relationship between my hypotenuse and my x-axis. You are technically correct. This thing that I just called the 60-degree, because its reference angle is 60, is actually 120 degrees. And this right here that I'll call 45, because of its reference angle, what will that be? That's correct, 135. And this right here that I call a 30-degree angle, that will be 150 degrees. That's right. Okay, so if I go to my quote-unquote 60-degree line, right, my 120, well, I see over here it was over 1/2 up root 3 over 2. So what is this one going to be? That is correct. -1/2 up root 3 over 2. And this one will be negative root 2 over 2, comma root 2 over 2. And this guy will be negative root 3 over 2, comma 1 over 2. That's right. All right, now anticipate what's going to happen down here. Our x will be, that's right, negative. And our y will be, that's right, negative. Third quadrant's negative, negative. So let's fill in those. And then finally in this quadrant, what is our situation? That's right. This time our x's are positive and our y's are negative. So let's fill those in. And that is our unit circle. Now, how do we use it? Okay, number one, you memorize the things in the first quadrant, and you memorize the 4 axis points. So let's get rid of all of the rest of this and just look at those. Okay, so you're going to memorize that at 30 degrees, you're over root 3 over 2, up 1/2. 45 degrees, you're over root 2 over 2, up root 2 over 2. 60, you're over 1/2, up root 3 over 2. You're also going to memorize that at 0, you're over 1, up none. At 180, you're over -1, up none. At 90, you're over none, up 1. And at 270, you're over none, down -1. Now, here's some magic. X, or your over, is the value of your cosine. Y, or your up, is the value of your sine. Now, how do we use that? Well, let's take a look at a sample problem. Let's say we're asked to find the value of sine of 330 degrees, and we're instructed we can't use our calculator. Because, of course, if we can use our calculator or a table, we can just look this up. But if they tell you not to use your calculator, they're asking you to know the unit circle. So, sine 330, I'm going to make a quick circle. I'm going to ask myself where my 330 would land. Well, I know that this point here is 0 or 360, so my 330 is in my fourth quadrant. And the way we find our reference angle, the angle that our radius or hypotenuse makes with the x-axis, when it's in the fourth quadrant, we go 360 degrees minus whatever our theta is. So in this case, our theta is 330, which means our reference angle is 30 degrees. Now, we memorized our first quadrant of the unit circle, so we know that sine theta is 1/2. And then we look in our fourth quadrant and we say, what's the deal with sine in the fourth quadrant? So here's another little handy thing. All students take calculus, and what this stands for is which functions are positive in which quadrants. In the first quadrant, all functions are positive. In the second quadrant, sine is positive. In the third, tangent is positive. In the fourth, cosine is positive. So, is sine positive in the fourth quadrant? It is not. So, while sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, sine of 330 degrees is -1/2. Let's do another. Let's say we want the cosecant of 210. Okay, first, let's place it. Here's my first 180. This is 270, so 210's in my third quadrant. Okay, how do I find a reference angle in my third quadrant? That goes like this. Theta minus 180. In other words, we take our whole big angle, we subtract out the 180, and we are left with our reference angle. So 210 minus 180, hey, it's another 30-degree angle. Okay, cosecant. Well, wait a minute, all students take calculus. Yes, thank you. But cosecant, we know, is the same as 1 over sine. So sine of 30 degrees, well, we just established that. That's 1/2. And 1 over 1/2 is 2. And now we check all students take third quadrant tangent. Sine is not positive there either. So cosecant of 210 is -2. Let's do another. Tangent of 135 degrees. Let's place it. Okay, there's my 90. I'm not going all the way to 180. So it's somewhere in there. So how do I find the reference angle in the second quadrant? Well, that's 180 minus our theta. This much is our theta. This much is our 180. If I subtract my theta, I'm left with my reference angle. So in this case, my reference angle is 45 degrees. Okay, so tangent of 45, I memorized my first quadrant. That's sine 45 over cosine of 45. Well, those were the same thing. Those were root 2 over 2 over root 2 over 2. That's just 1. And now let's get the positive negative of it. All students, tangent is not positive in the second quadrant. My answer is -1. So that's the idea. This right here is your shortcut for how to find the reference angle in each quadrant. In your first quadrant, it's theta. In your second quadrant, it's your 180 minus theta. In your third quadrant, it's your theta minus 180. And in your fourth quadrant, it's all the way to 360 minus your theta. That gives you your reference angles. All right, play around with these. This is just the beginning of a series on trig. I've got a new playlist up, so keep checking back in. I'm going to do one on your trigonometric identities and simplifying and solving. If you have some specific problems you're stuck in, leave them in the comments. I'll try to make a video for you. Consider subscribing to my channel so you know when I put out a new video. And as always, keep on mathing.